This is Eltham, on the northeastern edge of Melbourne, a suburb that's defined by bush, slope and irregular ground. This corner of the garden sits on the slope, but it doesn't really serve a purpose. Water moves through here quickly, and nothing holds your attention. It remains unresolved. The plan is to create a small pond here, just enough to give this part of the garden a clear centre. The final shape isn't fixed yet. It gets worked out as the digging begins, because ground like this is never empty. There's always something underneath. It doesn't take long to find the first obstacle. A major root from one of the nearby wattles runs straight through the area. Roots like this are critical. They carry water and nutrients, and they help stabilize the tree. Cutting through it isn't worth the risk, so instead of forcing the shape, the hole shifts slightly across. The soil stays on site. It just needs to move from the bottom of the garden to the top. So I guess today is going to be leg day. The paths built earlier now prove their value. What used to be difficult ground has now become a working route. Not far down, the shovel hits timber. The remains of an old stump are buried here. Termites are still working through it, slowly breaking it down and returning it back into the soil. They aren't the only creatures down here. A burrowing wolf spider emerges from the soil. Its instinct is to disappear again as quickly as possible. I'll move it to a safer spot. As the hole deepens, the final shape starts to become clearer. The sides are stepped deliberately. These terraces will support the stone, allowing it to lock into the ground rather than sit on the surface. But the deeper layers are different. The soil has become dense and heavily compacted. It's going to require some heavier tools. Eltham wasn't built quickly. For a long time, this was isolated country. It was difficult to reach. The ground was rough, and it was far enough from the city that most people didn't consider living here. But that isolation attracted a certain kind of person. People who were willing to work with their hands. People looking for space, privacy, and the freedom to build something of their own. That began to change in the early 1900s, when the railway line was extended out this far. Suddenly, the city was within reach, and more people started arriving. More homes began to appear along the rail line first, then gradually spread outward into the surrounding hills. The suburb grew over time. More houses, more roads, more structure. But the ground itself never changed. Every project still begins the same way, by breaking into it. This route helps anchor the pond visually. The stonework will integrate around it, reinforcing the sense that it belongs here. With the excavation complete, attention now turns to the stone. The stone used here comes from Coldstream, roughly 15 kilometers from here. It's a volcanic rock, formed millions of years ago under intense heat and pressure, then exposed over time as the landscape slowly changed. Its strength makes it ideal for structural work. It resists compression. It holds its shape under load. It doesn't deform. It carries weight exactly as it is. Each piece is completely unique. Different edges, different faces, different proportions. There's no uniform size. Every stone has to be selected individually, and its place worked out by hand. Each piece transfers its weight downward, locking everything together through mass alone. No mortar, no fixings, just gravity and careful placement. Using local stone also connects the structure back to its surroundings. This material already exists throughout the region. The colors match the soil, the textures match the landscape. Nothing feels introduced. It settles into place as though it's always been here. Now it just needs to be moved into position. Before the stone can go in, the base needs to be prepared. A thick layer of sand goes down first. This creates a soft, even surface, ensuring nothing sharp sits directly beneath the liner. With that in place, the pond liner can be installed. It's carefully positioned, then trimmed to size. The offcuts aren't wasted. They're placed beneath the liner, adding an extra layer of protection. There will be a lot of movement across this surface while placing the stone. Protecting it now ensures the structure above won't be compromised later. Every time I build with stone, it feels a little different. Working with it changes the pace. It asks for time, attention to weight, to balance, to the feel of every piece. You can't rush it, and you can't fake it. Before work can continue, I'll need to grab another load of rock. Each stone plays a specific role, and the structure determines what's needed. I'm not just loading rock at random. Each piece is chosen by hand for its shape, its weight, and where it will fit. While I'm here, I'll grab a few smooth river stones as well. They'll protect the liner and form the base of the pond. Getting the stone to site is just part of the process. Before it can shape and become part of the landscape, it has to arrive there first. Building with stone like this takes patience. Each piece has to be turned, tested, and adjusted until it settles naturally. Straight walls are easy, but creating something that feels like it belongs here takes more time. Dry stone construction is one of the oldest building methods in the world. For thousands of years, stone has been stacked without mortar, relying entirely on weight and balance to hold it together. The strength comes from weight, placement, and the way each stone locks into the next. That same method arrived in Victoria with early European settlers in the 1800s. As farmland was cleared, stone emerged everywhere. Heavy, irregular, impossible to ignore. It couldn't be buried, it couldn't be burned, so it was stacked. Stone by stone, farmers built boundary walls to define paddocks and clear the ground for grazing. Not built for appearance, built because the stone was already there. Over time, extensive networks of dry stone walls spread across Victoria. Many still stand today, not maintained, not repaired, just holding their form through balance alone. They've survived decades of weather, ground movement, and time. When each stone is placed correctly, the structure becomes self-supporting. It adapts, it settles, it endures. Even now, the process remains the same. Each piece turned, adjusted, placed carefully, not forced, just allowed to find its position. Water plays an important role in landscapes like this. During long dry summers, even a small, reliable water source can support birds, insects, and other wildlife moving through the area. It becomes part of the local ecosystem. But water also changes how a space feels. It draws attention, creates reflection, introduces movement. Even when still, it brings a sense of calm, something the eye settles on, a fixed point within the landscape. With the pond filled, a small pump is introduced. It keeps the water moving, helping maintain water quality and preventing stagnation. Aquatic plants are added as well. Over time, they'll help stabilize the system, supporting life both above and below the surface. I left some gaps between the stone to allow for planting later. Fresh potting mix is added now, preparing these spaces in advance. But planting won't happen yet. In the middle of summer, survival rates are low. It's better to wait for cooler conditions, when plants can establish properly. In autumn, native species like correas and grevilleas will be introduced. Over time, they'll grow in around the pond, helping it settle naturally into the hillside. I've added an old branch to the pond as well. It provides a way out for any wildlife that may fall in. Small animals, reptiles, and insects can become trapped against smooth edges. This gives them a path back to safety. The ground here has been shaped slowly over time, by weather, by roots, by everything that passes through it. This pond becomes part of that same process. Stone settles, water moves, plants establish. Over time, the edges soften. The distinction between what was here before and what was added begins to disappear, until eventually it no longer appears built at all. It simply becomes part of the landscape.